Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak Your Flow, the podcast where we help you unlock your English speaking potential. I'm your host, Michael, and today we have a very special episode lined up for you. We're diving deep into one of the most requested topics from our community, how to speak English fluently and confidently. And to help us explore this fascinating topic, I'm joined by an incredible educator and language expert, Olivia. Welcome to the show, Olivia.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. This topic is so close to my heart because I've worked with thousands of learners over the years, and I've seen the transformation that happens when someone finally breaks through that fluency barrier.
That's exactly what we want to help our listeners achieve today. You know, Olivia, I think many people believe that fluency is something magical that just happens overnight, or that you need some special talent for it. What's your take on that?
That's such an important misconception to address right away, Michael. Fluency isn't magic, and it's definitely not reserved for people with a special gift. Fluency is a skill that can be developed systematically. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument. At first, your fingers stumble over the keys, but with consistent, deliberate practice, playing becomes natural and fluid.
I love that analogy. So let's start with the fundamentals. What does fluency actually mean? Because I think a lot of learners confuse fluency with perfection.
Absolutely, and this is where so many learners get stuck. Fluency is about the smooth flow of communication, the ability to express your thoughts without excessive pausing or hesitation. It's not about perfect grammar or having a native-like accent. In fact, some of the most fluent speakers I know still make grammatical mistakes occasionally, but they communicate effectively and confidently.
So it's more about communication effectiveness than grammatical perfection.
Precisely. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you're at a coffee shop and you want to order a latte. A fluent speaker might say, "Hi, can I have a large latte with oat milk, please?" Even if they pronounce latte with their native accent. A perfectionist learner might spend 10 seconds thinking about whether to use can or may, worrying about their pronunciation, and ultimately say nothing because they're afraid of making a mistake. Who do you think is more successful in that situation?
Definitely the first person. They got their coffee. And that brings us to confidence, doesn't it? Because fear of mistakes is what holds so many people back.
Exactly. Confidence and fluency are deeply interconnected. You can't have one without working on the other. Confidence gives you the courage to speak, and speaking builds fluency, which in turn builds more confidence. It's a beautiful, positive cycle.
Okay, so let's get practical. If someone is listening to this right now and thinking, I want to become fluent, where should they start?
The foundation of fluency is input. You cannot speak what you haven't heard or read. Think about how children learn their first language. They're surrounded by it constantly. They listen for months before they ever say their first word. As adult learners, we need to recreate that immersion environment as much as possible.
But most of our listeners probably don't live in English-speaking countries. How can they create that immersion?
Great question. And honestly, we're living in the golden age of language learning because of technology. Here's my practical immersion strategy. First, change your phone's language to English. Change your social media to English. This gives you daily micro exposures to the language. Second, consume content you actually enjoy in English. Don't force yourself to watch boring news broadcasts if you hate the news. Love cooking? Watch cooking shows in English. Into fitness? Follow English-speaking fitness influencers. The key is consistency and enjoyment.
So it's about making English a natural part of your daily life, rather than something you only do during study time.
Exactly. And here's something crucial. Consume content slightly above your current level. If you understand everything 100%, it's too easy and you won't grow. If you understand less than 50%, it's too difficult and you'll get frustrated. Aim for that sweet spot where you understand most of it but encounter new vocabulary and structures regularly.
All right, so we're building our foundation with input and immersion. But obviously, we need to actually speak to become fluent speakers. What are the most effective speaking practice techniques?
Let me share 5 techniques that work remarkably well. First is shadowing. This is where you listen to a native speaker, could be from a podcast, movie, or YouTube video, and you repeat what they say immediately after them, trying to match their rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation. It's incredibly powerful for developing natural speech patterns.
I've tried shadowing myself, and it's harder than it sounds, but I noticed my pronunciation improved significantly.
It definitely takes practice, but the results are worth it. The second technique is thinking in English. This is absolutely crucial. Many learners translate from their native language in their heads before speaking, which creates a delay and disrupts fluency. Instead, practice thinking about your day, your plans, your opinions directly in English.
How can someone train themselves to do that if they're used to thinking in their native language?
Start small. When you're doing routine activities like making breakfast or commuting, narrate what you're doing in English in your mind. I'm putting bread in the toaster. I'm waiting for it to brown. Now I'm spreading butter. It feels awkward at first, but after a few weeks, it becomes natural. The third technique is recording yourself. This is something many learners avoid because they don't like hearing their own voice, but it's incredibly valuable. Record yourself speaking about a topic for 2 to 3 minutes, then listen back. You'll notice your own mistakes, hesitations, and areas for improvement that you wouldn't catch otherwise.
That's interesting. It's like being your own teacher in a way.
Absolutely. The fourth technique is conversational practice with real people. This is non-negotiable for fluency. You can use language exchange apps, join online conversation groups, or hire a tutor for conversation practice. The key is regular interaction with other humans.
And the fifth technique?
The fifth is what I call prepared spontaneity. This might sound contradictory, but here's what I mean. Prepare yourself to talk about common topics. Practice introducing yourself, describing your job, talking about your hobbies, giving your opinion on common issues. When these topics come up in real conversations, and they will, you'll have the vocabulary and structures ready, which makes you sound fluent and confident.
These are fantastic techniques, Olivia. But I know from experience and from our listeners' messages that many people know what to do but still feel paralyzed by fear when it's time to actually speak. How do we overcome that psychological barrier?
This is so important, Michael. The confidence barrier is often the biggest obstacle, more so than grammar or vocabulary. First, we need to reframe mistakes. In most cultures, mistakes in school were punished, marked with red ink, and associated with failure. But in language learning, mistakes are data. They're feedback that helps you improve.
So mistakes are actually good.
Not just good, they're essential. Every mistake you make and correct is a step toward fluency. I tell my students, if you're not making mistakes, you're not challenging yourself enough. Native speakers make mistakes too. I make mistakes. The difference is we don't let them stop us from communicating.
That's liberating to hear. What else helps build confidence?
Celebrate small wins. Many learners only focus on how far they have to go instead of recognizing how far they've come. Did you understand a movie scene without subtitles today? That's a win. Did you successfully order food in English? That's a win. Did you express a complete thought without translating from your native language? That's a win. Acknowledge these moments. Also, find your supportive community. Surround yourself with people who encourage your learning journey. Avoid people who criticize your accent or mock your mistakes. Language learning requires vulnerability, and you need a safe space to practice.
Community is so powerful. That's actually why we started this podcast, to create that supportive space for learners.
And that's wonderful. Another strategy is to use positive self-talk. Instead of saying, I'm terrible at English, or I'll never be fluent, try, I'm improving every day, or I'm becoming more confident each time I practice. Your internal dialogue shapes your reality more than you might think.
Olivia, if you were to design a perfect daily routine for someone committed to becoming fluent, what would that look like?
I love this question because consistency beats intensity every time. Here's what I recommend. Morning, 15 minutes. Start your day with English. While having breakfast, listen to an English podcast or watch a short video about something you enjoy. This wakes up your English brain. Midday, 10 minutes. Practice thinking in English during a routine activity. Describe what you're doing, what you see, how you feel, all in English. Afternoon, 20 minutes. Active study time. This could be shadowing practice, vocabulary review using spaced repetition apps, or grammar exercises if needed, but make it active, not passive. Evening, 15 minutes. Conversational practice. This could be a language exchange, talking to yourself about your day, or recording a voice message to a language partner. Before bed, 10 minutes, read something in English, a book, articles, social media posts. Reading before bed helps consolidate vocabulary.
That's just 70 minutes spread throughout the day. Very manageable.
Exactly. And here's the crucial part. This needs to happen every single day, or at least 6 days a week. Fluency is built through consistent exposure and practice. Studying 3 hours once a week is far less effective than practicing 1 hour distributed across 7 days.
Let's talk about the next level. Once someone can communicate effectively, how do they move towards sounding more natural, more native-like?
This is where we dive into the nuances of the language. Natural speech has 3 key elements: collocations, idioms and phrasal verbs, and connected speech. Collocations are words that naturally go together. Native speakers don't say, do a mistake. They say, make a mistake. They don't say a speech. They say, give a speech. Learning these combinations makes you sound significantly more natural.
So it's not just about knowing individual words, but knowing which words go together.
Precisely. Idioms and phrasal verbs are the next level. These are expressions that can't be understood from the individual words alone. Break a leg means good luck. Let someone down means disappoint someone. These are everywhere in natural English conversation. And then there's connected speech, how native speakers actually pronounce words in natural conversation. We don't say want to, we say wanna. We don't say going to, we say gonna. We link words together, we drop sounds, we use contractions. This is what makes English sound fluid.
This is why listening to real conversations, not just textbook English, is so important.
Absolutely. Watch TV shows, movies, listen to podcasts where people are having real conversations. Notice how they actually speak versus how textbooks teach. Both are important, but for natural fluency, you need that real-world exposure.
Olivia, we're coming to the end of our time together, and this has been incredibly valuable. If you could leave our listeners with one final piece of advice, what would it be?
Be patient with yourself and trust the process. Fluency doesn't happen in weeks or even months for most people. It's a journey that might take a year, 2 years, or longer, depending on your starting point and how much time you dedicate. But here's the beautiful thing. Every single day of practice moves you forward. You might not notice the progress day to day, But if you compare yourself to where you were 6 months ago, you'll be amazed.
That's beautiful and so true. I always tell people that language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And remember, you don't need to be perfect to be fluent. You don't need to sound like a native speaker to communicate effectively and confidently. Your accent is part of your identity. Your goal is to be understood and to express yourself authentically. That's true fluency.
Wonderful advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Olivia. This conversation has been enlightening, and I know our listeners are going to get so much value from it.
Thank you for having me, Michael. To everyone listening, remember, you can do this. Start today, stay consistent, and watch yourself transform.
And to our amazing Speak Your Flow community, thank you for tuning in. Remember, fluency is not a destination, it's a journey, and every word you speak brings you closer to your goals. Keep practicing, stay confident, and most importantly, enjoy the process. Until next time, keep speaking, keep flowing, and keep growing. This is Michael signing off. Speak your flow.